Thanks very much, Josh. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. And again, thank you to Gorgeous Coffee. Freedom Headquarters, I love that. How epic is that? That's definitely what I'm calling this place from here on out. For what I want to prepare, for what I prepared tonight is essentially I have about 20 questions that I want to ask. And you may have heard this before, but I've recharacterized it in the framework of what's going on here in Canada and things that we can think about in our country. And questions that we need to be asking about freedom. Questions that are important to everyday life that affect so many people going on here today. So I have a few questions for my peers. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free or prosperous? What if propping up repressive regimes in the Middle East endangers both Canada and Israel? What if occupying countries like Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, and bombing Pakistan is directly related to the hatred directed towards us? What if someday it draws on us that losing hundreds of Canadian military personnel in the Middle East since 9/11 is not a fair trade-off for the loss of 25 Canadian citizens, no matter how many Iraqi, Pakistani, Libyan, Syrian, and Afghan people are killed or displaced? What if we finally decide that torture, even if being called enhanced interrogation techniques, is self-destructive and produces no useful information, that contracting out to a third world nation is just as evil? What if it is finally realized that war and military spending is always destructive to the economy? What if all wartime spending is paid for through the deceitful and evil process of inflating and borrowing? What if we finally see that wartime conditions always undermine personal liberty? What if conservatives who preach small government wake up and realize that our interventionist foreign policy provides the greatest incentive to expand government? What if conservatives understood once again that their only logical position is to reject military intervention and imagine in managing an empire throughout the world? What if the Canadian people woke up and understood that the official reasons for going to war are almost always based on lies and promoted by war propaganda in order to serve special interests? What if we as a nation came to realize that the quest for empire eventually destroys all great nations? What if Harper has no intention of leaving the Middle East? What if a military draft is being planned for the wars that would spread if our foreign policy is not changed? What if the Canadian people learn the truth? That our foreign policy has nothing to do with national security? That it never changes from one administration to the next? What if war in preparation for war is a racket serving the special interests? What if Prime Minister Harper is completely wrong about Afghanistan and it turns out worse than Iraq and Vietnam put together? What if libertarian philosophy actually teaches peace and not preventive wars of aggression? What if diplomacy is found to be superior to bombs and bribes in protecting Canada? What happens if my concerns are completely unfounded? Nothing. But what happens if my concerns are justified and ignored? Nothing good. This is a message that was crafted by Congressman Ron Paul in the United States, who's ran for president 3 times, and I recreated it to give it a Canadian tone. But the message that applies in America equally applies in Canada. And we can't just let our freedom die for this progress of the military conquest that the Americans have brought us into, and our allies that bring us into war through NATO. What if we were truly a peaceful nation? What if we were truly peaceful people? What if we truly were determined not to be aggressive towards other people through invasive and forceful taxation, and invasive and forceful inflation of our economics? We have so much opportunity. Tim talked about it earlier. We have people in this room who have galvanized so many wonderful pieces of liberty. And that's why we're all here. That's why this room is full. And that's why we're recording this message, so it can reach thousands of people. And I know that back in 2007, when I started becoming a liberty activist, it was a small group. It's 2014, and we are turning the tide on so many fronts. Look what we've done with the conversation around 9/11. How many people actually believe the official story that the government put out relative to how many people question the official story? We're winning that war. We are winning that one. What about the United Nations and Agenda 21? What's happening with international globalists trying to take over Canadian sovereignty and inherently your individual sovereignty? We can't be oppressed from top down. We need to fulfill our own lives from the bottom up. And when we're strong as individuals, that's how we create strong communities. And that's how we create a stronger country. And that's how we create a stronger planet.